This child had never eaten candy before, simply because his father was a dentist and forced him to wear braces. When he managed to steal some, the father burned them again. After his dad left, he found a surviving chocolate in the ashes of the oven. It was the first candy he had ever eaten. The boy peeled it open and put it in his mouth. It tasted like the most delicious thing in the world. He began to try all kinds of chocolates behind his father's back and to write down their characteristics. Gradually, he realized that every chocolate has its flaws. In order to make the perfect chocolate, he decided to build his own factory. But his father was furious. He had no choice but to run away from home. He traveled to many countries. He tasted more and more chocolate. When he grew up, he actually built his own factory. Willy, as he was known, he became a legend in people's minds. An Indian prince asked them to build a palace. He asked them to make it all out of chocolate. When the palace was finished, Willy advised him to eat it as soon as possible. But the prince couldn't let go of it. He wanted to live in it for the rest of his life. Within days, however, the sun was blazing. The palace began to melt. Luckily, the prince was quick to slip away, otherwise it would have been flooded. He tried to build another one, but there is nothing more Willy can do. His chocolate recipe has been stolen by his peers. The market is flooded with knockoffs. Willy was forced to fire all his workers.
I'm closing my chocolate factory forever.
But after a while, the factory resumed production. Strangely enough, there wasn't a single worker in the factory. People were going crazy with curiosity. Everyone wanted to know what had become of it. It was at this point that Willy made an announcement. He had slipped 5 golden tickets into the chocolates. The winner would get a tour of his factory. One of them would also win a mystery prize. At this point, the people were in a state of shock. The word of this rich girl's daughter. Her father bought all the chocolates in town for her. The workers worked day and night unpacking. For a small golden ticket, another talented young man, based on the time of day and weather alone, got a second golden ticket. The third was a little fat boy. He got the golden ticket simply because he loves to eat. The fourth winner was a girl. She has been a competitive girl since she was a child. To break the world record, she chewed a piece of gum for 3 months in a row in order. Meanwhile, the supermarket was sold out of chocolate. Everyone wants to get their hands on the last golden ticket. What is the magic of this? Well, it turns out that the world's most mysterious chocolate factory wanted to invite 5 winners to take an inside tour. There are no workers in the factory, but the factory produces the best-selling chocolate of all time. So who will the 5th lucky winner be? This handsome little boy named Charlie. His family is poor. His family of 7 are all crammed into a shabby shack. He has no money to buy chocolates. Every year on his birthday, he could only have a small piece. But on this day, Grandpa called him to him and gave him the only money he had in his pocket and told him to take his chances. But in the end, they were disappointed. A frustrated Charlie was walking alone in the street. Suddenly, he found a $10 note. Immediately went to the shop, bought the last piece of chocolate he could. Finally, by a miracle, he got the last golden ticket. The owner was stunned. Charlie raced home. He handed the scroll to his grandfather. The family looked on in amazement. Grandpa was overjoyed. The next day, grandfather and grandson went to the factory. They met Willy in person. Willy took them inside the factory, opening the door. The view from inside the door instantly stunned the crowd. Mountains, waterfalls, rivers, meadows, everything here was made of chocolate. It was amazing. This wonderland-like place, you'd never guess that it's actually a factory. Everything here is made of chocolate. That little fatty was attracted to the chocolate river and ended up, he fell headlong into the river. He was the first to fall. Then, the crowd made its way to another mechanical room. Here the gum is still in the experimental stage, but it can already be chewed in various flavors. The young girl took a piece against her better judgment. The next moment she expands into a giant blueberry. She is pushed into the juicer. In the third workshop there are many squirrels peeling nuts. They could tell if a nut was good or bad by just tapping it. Chikane was so fascinated. She went in without permission. The squirrels pounced on her. They knocked her on the head and judged to be a bad nut. She was then sent to the rubbish bin. The fourth workshop was the most magical. The little man at work puts the chocolate on the platform. The next second, the chocolate is on the TV, and you can reach out and take it out and eat it. The next thing you know, the boy genius couldn't help himself. He leapt onto the platform to investigate this amazing invention. Instead, he was sent into a television set. When he was taken out again, he was the size of the palm of his hand. And so, Charlie was the final winner. Willy also announced the ultimate prize, that of becoming his heir to take over his factory in the future, but only if he leaves his family behind. For in his eyes, they were only a hindrance to his dreams. Charlie stopped smiling at that. For him, there was nothing more important to him than his family. He turned Willy down decisively. This made Willy a little angry. But more than that, he was frustrated and confused. He couldn't figure out what was so great about his family. Until this day, with Charlie by his side, he returns to his former home to find that his father's room was covered with news of him. It turned out he had been watching his son. After many years, father and son finally had their first hug. The gap between them is bridged. By the end of the story, the two families become a family. Charlie will inherit the chocolate factory. Willy has been given something even more precious, and that is family.